Had to get the sauce. There we go. Sauce is important because we're starting out with hot sauce again. Wow, there's a lot of messages. Anyways, recommending wireless cameras. No, I am not. There's so many messages flying through my phone. Welcome to Vlogs Thursday, episode 163 times I've done this now. FreeNAS to become TrueNAS CORE. We're going to talk about that first. I added that to the announcement. So, little secret, you know, I thought it was coming today. I didn't know when they were announcing it. I actually got to see this ahead of time a little bit. I did talk to them. I do talk to some of the team members of FreeNAS. They're an amazing group of people. And let me assure you, they are not, I already had a friend message me and I told them, that's another group chat I got with some of my tech friends who are worried that features will go missing. They are not. It is still FreeNAS. It is just going to be simpler. We'll get into that in a second here. So we're going to start with some hot sauce. Where's the overhead button? There we go. We got some Dad's Peach Jalapeno here. I don't even know where you could find this. Someone sent this to us, I believe, from Colorado. It's pretty good. It is peach jalapenos, kind of like the name says. I got more than crackers. I love this sauce. This is dessert because I already ate some cheese and crackers with some habaneros. So this is the dessert one here. So, wow. All right, enough of that. We just got peaches and habaneros. What do we got in here? Or not, sorry, peaches and jalapenos. Peaches and jalapenos go together really well. So, peaches, jalapenos, cane sugar, sea salt, lemon juice, spices, and sodium benzoate to preserve it. I also have, because I was just laughing because it was here. This is the whiteboard that we use to describe things occasionally. I thought about sometime maybe I'll do, depending on how things go. Someone asked me a question, I'll doodle it on a whiteboard. It does say BGP on there. Literally some BGP problems with the internet were solved by people sitting at this table. People much smarter than me about it. It was kind of a fun, I sat over there and I watched them solve a really interesting problem. So it was really cool. Anyways, I'm an insider. I don't know about that. Who used your Office 365 backup? We're looking at moving things over to MSP 360 for some of that. But a lot of times we'll just buy the backup services that they offer for like their vault storage. But that's a different talk. There's a lot of things that go into that. Hey, Steve Gibson shared a picture of the week in episode 757. It's the outlet with a nose in it. Awesome, Grayson. Yes, I like that. That's a great nose. I like that. It knows when it's plugged in. Anyways, hot and sweet for sure. Do you have some type of BNC connector to Ethernet device? So thank you for the donation, William. Do you have BNC to Ethernet connector? It showed in a video a long time ago. I can't find, oh, yeah. In my Synology reviews, they make an adapter to adapt old BNC cameras to it. I can't remember if I did a video on it or not. That device exists. It's okay. It's a way to connect and tie in some old legacy cameras. I certainly wouldn't recommend it. Generally replace them, but if the absolutely no option to replace, then yes, that's a stopgap device you can use that will convert BNC to IP cameras. It doesn't convert BNC to Ethernet, but it converts BNC to IP camera. I can't remember who makes it. It's one of the off-brand companies, and I'd have to really do some digging to find that. I mentioned it if you look in there, so. All right. You thought the whiteboard was a lot bigger? Yeah, well, we have whiteboards everywhere. I do enjoy doodling on stuff because we need to doodle things to explain things. I'm not great at doodling. That's why I don't do whiteboard videos. My handwriting's rather poor. And I didn't even draw this one. This was my friends that work. Literally, they solve BGP routing problems on the internet. One of my friends does this. He saves the internet from DDoSing and BGP route announcements and that kind of fun stuff. So watching him work with my other DevOps friend to work with a better way to do request comparisons with BGP routes, they wrote some cool scripts to do this. And they're in use on the internet right now, changing routes around the internet with scripting that happened in this on his table. I don't know, I'm kind of not, I was just cool watching them. They are really, really smart at that particular thing. So, what else we have here? Hello from the UK. Thanks for the videos. Awesome. It's not BNC to SDI. It was just BNC like the old crappy one. So, yes, licenses are required from Synology. That is true. That is a fact. I do like Steve Gibson. Security Now is pretty good stuff. He's a neat guy. Not necessarily I agree with 100% of everything he says, because someone always asks me about that. Oh, he said in some particular time and space that he'll say something, and then people are like, well, you said you like Steve Gibson, but he said this thing and I disagree with it. And I'm like, hold your horses. I have not audited every statement that Steve Gibson said, because for whatever reason he's apparently controversial to certain groups of people, and I don't understand why. But overall, generally speaking, I enjoy his show. I do listen to it. I don't know that I've listened to every episode, but I've been a long-time listener for a long time, and I do enjoy his work. So that's Steve Gibson with Gibson Research, and you can find him on the Twit network. So, what do I think about the FreeNAS name change? Well, let's talk about the FreeNAS name change. This is awesome. So, this is the discussion I wanted to start out with. The benefits. And this is all cool. And one of the problems that we have here, and I knew some of this was coming, so more recently, but this is a really good thing, trust me. FreeNAS and TrueNAS have been separate but related members of the #1 open source storage family since 2012. I'm not going to read every detail here, but they've been around for a while. From the beginning, we developed, tested, and documented and released as separate products, even though the vast majority of code is shared. Now, from a maintenance standpoint, I completely understand this. When you're trying to maintain two code bases, you have a challenge of maintaining two code bases. That being said, this is what they want to do. So, the benefits. This is really what it comes down to once you merge the code bases. It isn't just a union of convenience. There are major technical benefits for all users and contributors. Rapid development. Unified images accelerate software development and releases. For example, 12.0 is a major release. It normally would have taken 9 to 12 months to release. And with these new efficiencies, we're bringing it closer to a 6-month release cycle. Improved quality, reduced relevant redundancy. And you got to think about this. If you've got some of your developers redundantly doing things and testing them on each side of the house, that becomes difficult to do. And it's kind of tiresome. No one wants to do the same work twice. And this includes with FreeNAS and TrueNAS. Earlier hardware enablement. Staying in sync with upstream OS versions will be easier, allowing earlier access to newer hardware drivers. For instance, 12.0 brings improved support for AMD EPYC. And someone did reach out to me and had problems with an EPYC server. And they're fixing things with it, but of course a quicker development cycle. We just need the newer kernel in there so we can have better support for newer platforms, especially the enhanced Gnome support for more CPU core handling. Simplified documentation. FreeNAS, if you haven't taken the time to read through the documentation, it's got a lot of documentation for every version, including every version twice. Every version from the 9 series, the 10, 11 series, etc., they update the documentation. That goes in parity with how they update the TrueNAS documentation. So they're duplicating the efforts on the documentation after they duplicated the efforts on the code. OpenZFS 2.0, the planning of a unified 12.0 release began over a year ago, including major investment in development integration that will soon be OpenZFS 2.0. This offers fast-forwarding delivery, advanced like dataset encryption, major performance improvements, and compatibility with Linux ZFS pools. So, two names become one. That's really what you're going to see here, though. So for years, we've longingly about unifying the images, documentation, web content, do a lot of efficiencies gained, and benefits to be had. The one thing that's always held us back is the question of what to do with the name. After all, unification of the software meant two distinct product names would no longer be workable. And this is one of those challenges, and makes complete sense to me. We have the FreeNAS brand that everyone's come to know and love, and users immediately know the product doesn't cost anything because it's got word free in there. On the other hand, TrueNAS has a better name for enterprise products. So some may remember that TrueNAS was originally FreeNAS Pro, but the feedback they received, many companies didn't take it seriously. They felt a product with free in the name didn't inspire the necessity and necessary confidence with critical infrastructure and data. Hence, the TrueNAS name was born to overcome that stigma, and the enterprise side of our business has grown reliably since. So that's how they came up with this. So the TrueNAS open storage, you know it's open source. You know it's still the FreeNAS. We've all known this. Sorry, I have a cold. You'll have to excuse me just for one moment on that. A little bit of a cold. I don't know if it's cold or allergies, but it's there. Anyways, sorry. This is live. You're going to get sneezes. So they decided to do the TrueNAS Core and TrueNAS Enterprise without any license keys when you have that. So this allows you to have the system that's the same. This is where people who seem to be getting confused with this, they're sitting there going, hey, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be, putting things behind a paywall. And I'm like, why? That doesn't benefit them any. And with the core system, being able to rapidly deploy this, iterating faster, it's better for the community. They're a huge open source advocate. Like, they upstream a lot of their code. They're big with the community. They've been very supportive. They create tons of free documentation. They have a thriving business model selling these monster boxes back here. They sell the hardware and everything. I mean, we're a authorized TrueNAS reseller, and I'm not saying that because I'm an authorized TrueNAS reseller. Obviously, it would be bad for me. I would just sell someone else. One of my big reasons for choosing their product line is not just because I like it, but it's also I like them and their contributions to open source. So to me, I don't see this as a bad thing. And it's not like any of the stuff that's licensed inside of TrueNAS is things that end users really want. They want the HA. But that license for the HA is because you have to buy the hardware that supports HA. So giving you HA doesn't really have any benefit, because how are you going to build, unless you really want to, are you going to build the hardware that supports dual lining the two controllers to one hard drive? That would require you designing the hardware. And they're using CARP, they're using open source technologies, and they license it in combination with the life cycle of the machine itself. So it's kind of one of those, the license features you get aren't exactly, it's not like they're taking away from the end user and developing something proprietary. All the other stuff works the same in TrueNAS as it does in FreeNAS. So I don't see this as a bad thing at all. I think it's overall pretty good. Yeah, I got runny nose. Sorry. Anyways. Yeah, I'm not sure about the whole sneezing. I don't know if it's, I don't think I got the corona. I hope not. I'm not exposed to anyone for any of that, so that's not really a big concern. But that's kind of the whole TrueNAS thing. I mean, it's a big deal. It's cool for them from the project going forward. End users are just going to see some updates and see some logo changes. But it's not, I don't think it's really a big deal. So yeah, runny nose equals too much sauce. That's definitely, well, the runny nose could be the sauce, but jalapenos usually don't get my nose running. But those are kind of my thoughts on that. It's not really, it's a good thing. The overall is really good when it comes to the, in my opinion, of talking with them. And I've dealt directly. I mean, I've talked to the internal team members and engineers. You have a lot of open source advocates that are in there, so they're all fine with it too. Like, cool, we're merging code bases, we're making it simpler, we're streamlining it. So I guess that's hopefully enough of an answer. With all projects, wait and see. So for those of you that are super worried about this, it's open source. If you wanted to go spin it yourself, then take the code and spin it yourself. If this is really what you want to do. I don't see any reason to go do that, but they do. So yeah, the bigger deal, like someone just pointed out, is the AMD EPYC Ryzen. That's something we all want to see sooner rather than later. We'd all love to see a lot more Ryzen support and things like that. That is, and this is why some people even wish FreeNAS would get rebuilt onto Linux. I've had people ask, do you think that'll happen? I said, I don't know. But Linux, because the kernel iterations are fast, they have a lot of good support for some of the modern hardware that you don't have necessarily in FreeNAS now. So that's definitely a big, that's definitely huge. So is TrueNAS and FreeNAS the same? I have a comparison video. They're essentially the same. They essentially they share, I think they said like 99% of the same code base. The interface is the same. Look at any of my TrueNAS videos and you can mistake them for a FreeNAS video. They're very, very similar, except for, and the differences being the HA ability. That's only if you buy an HA system, by the way. They also have, and this is something open source people don't want anyways, I know this is going to be controversial, they have a telemetry item in it that phones home to tell you, to let them know for the support contract if a drive goes bad, and can let IX systems know a drive goes bad. People freak out if they put telemetry systems in any open source. So that's not in the open source, but it has a complete like notification system to notify the people at IX systems of a drive failure. So yeah, that's obviously something that the open source community probably doesn't want in there, generally speaking. Oh man, sorry. It is not stop. Once I started sneezing, it won't quit now. Anyways. All right, back to the topics here. Like I said, I'm happy with it overall. I just did a failover video with their HA system, specifically this one here. I do those videos in the other room because that thing's loud. But it's not meant to be quiet. It's not like you're going to buy a TrueNAS M50 and stick it in your bedroom. Maybe you will. Maybe you got that kind of money. Maybe that's something you want. It would make an excellent Steam server. There is no doubt. That thing is wicked, wicked fast. So they should call it proactive notifications rather than telemetry. Fair enough. That's what it is. It's proactive notifications. But the open source community having a device that phones home is generally enough to people running around like the world is collapsing around them. So that's something. Yeah, blowing his nose with toilet paper kind of guy. The FreeNAS people are actually in here. They haven't rebranded their site yet with the FreeNAS and TrueNAS, though. So it says FreeNAS and TrueNAS. Eventually, they're going to be the new. They'll have to rename their YouTube channel. So my first thoughts were when someone asked me what I thought about it. The first thing that came to my mind when I seen that the name changed, I'm like, oh crap! I called all these videos FreeNAS. I guess they'll still have good SEO. But the second part is I have an opportunity to create the same videos again and call them with the new name. So we can go by the TrueNAS Core. So I think the SEO is going to be perfectly fine for both of these. And like I said, when you look at the interface, it's not anything significantly different here for any of it. So what about Linux TrueNAS? Ooh, there's a Reddit post about porting it. Video announcement. Wow, there's a lot more to read on this. I haven't had time to do all the reading. I've actually had to do work today. Not that I'm complaining, but I did have to do some consulting work, some network engineering work, and things like that. Linus has made a video about a very affordable 2.5 gig Ethernet. I think the 10 gig stuff is affordable, to be honest with you. Let me grab something. So, just briefly to touch on this. One, I've reviewed this before, and I'm gonna do a separate video on just VLANs on this. I've been learning a little bit more about the MikroTik. I still don't like their routing stuff. I'll admit they threw a lot of features in there, but I don't think it's easy to use at all. But I do like their Switch OS. It turns out their Switch OS is a simplified version of their system for, well, switching. And this is 10 gigs, and this costs about $130 or so. I think it was $134. It wasn't too expensive. So here's 4 10 gig ports. Here is a $25 on eBay 10 gig card. Or you can buy brand new RJ45 UTP cards for under $100 that are 10 gig. So you can get 10 gig that I would say pretty affordable. I wouldn't say 2.5 gig. It's kind of a cool in-between. I mean, neat that it exists, but when you can buy these cards for $35, or a lot of the used Dell servers, if you get the daughter card that's got the 10 gig SFPs on it, so if you're looking to build a home lab with a used server, well, get the daughter card with the 10 gig SFP, and away you go. I reviewed, and specifically, I did the R720 with that setup on there. You can find those for a very reasonable price over at Tech Supply Direct and build a home lab with them, and then have 10 gig. If you bought 2 of them, you want to play with servers and redundancy, that's a pretty affordable setup for 10 gig. And I do have an RJ45 SFP Plus adapter in here, but if you did it with just SFP Plus, like the DAC cables, those are relatively inexpensive. So when you start building out a stack and you talk about, a budget build for a home lab with 10 gig, I think this combination, this is one of the reasons I did get in a little bit to the MikroTik, because I want to do some videos, because I really like to see people to have a more affordable switching stack. And I love the UniFi system, but I'll admit, UniFi's 10 gig switch is a lot more than MikroTik's 10 gig switch. And I've been retweeting some of the stuff from Serve the Home, all the different 10 gig switching they've been talking about. There's some great prices on all that. So it's pretty reasonable to get this. And Cat 6 and Cat 6A has become so inexpensive. If you do RJ45 UTP types, you can easily run it all over your house with RJ45 Cat 6, provided it's less than, I think Cat 6 goes, this is YouTube Live, and I'm not going to check this, but Cat 6 goes 30 meters at 10 gig. Technically goes further, but at least 30 meters with 10 gig. And if you use Cat 6A, you can go about 100 meters at 10 gig. So, and you can mix and match. So if you, like this particular port has UTP RJ45 and this one is SFP, you can have one UTP RJ45 and then a couple SFPs and mix and match your network. So maybe all your servers plug into here, but your computer plugs in here because it's on the other side of the wherever of your home lab. Put fiber runs. Fiber runs are okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with fiber. For home lab, it's not always necessary. The only time we really focus on fiber for stuff, because it's just a little bit more challenging to work with, is when we're doing the longer runs across buildings. When we deal with it a lot, it's just whether or not, it's just more steps, more things. Not to mention, I talked about fiber versus copper because you have muxing going on because it's got to do conversion of the adapter from a fiber back to that. Also, you're not going to find that always fiber works on these type of cards. It just doesn't always do. So you have to usually get a DAC cable for these type of cards. It's going to be, there's not a consistent, I don't have an exhaustive list of what does and what doesn't work, but these always work with DAC, but don't always work with fiber. Yeah, fiber is typically used for backbones between rooms. Fiber runs in warehouse all the time. TrueNAS is only for make document easy. TrueNAS Core. Well, merging the documentation, they have really solid documentation. So that's overall, I'm pretty happy about all that. But from a learning standpoint, fiber is great to learn with. I won't argue with that part at all. Let's see what to do. All right, I was gonna pull up the. Let me find this. Do I have it? I probably have it bookmarked. Let me find it real quick because it's a good report. Should be this one right here. Yep, this is the one. All right. The state of enterprise open source. It's like the website, the design they did and everything else. But this is a really interesting talk, and I thought this is a really... I know it's going to be biased because, one, I like open source, so I'm obviously positive about this. Two, Red Hat, well, they live on open source, so they conducted. Now, they didn't conduct a study. That would be a misleading statement. A more accurate statement is Red Hat paid to have the study done by a third party, and they collected the study. So Red Hat was responsible for it, and of course, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So getting numbers and making them, just take it for what it's worth. That it's probably going to be favorable, but they've been doing this for a while and they have comparisons of these different reports. And what we're talking about is the respondents agree that enterprise or open source will continue to grow. And they went and interviewed a lot of IT leaders, and they don't really say who they are. And this is actually some of the challenges when you're doing this. Getting feedback information is really hard to try and figure out market status. I talk about it, but even myself, I can't name the clients because sometimes the instant agreement is we can't name the clients. They just don't want their name on YouTube. They know they found us from YouTube, and the first thing is you can't add us to your site. They have general disclosure things, and that's fine. It's actually funny. Another YouTuber I'll leave unnamed, but he's pretty big. I've had discussions with this particular YouTube personality, and we laughed about the challenges we have of how much business we get from YouTube with very large companies, that the first rule is we can't talk about the fact that we consult with them. So anyways, not to get too off topic, this is really interesting because it shows the absolute change I feel I've seen over the years in attitudes of open source. And, you go back, and if you haven't heard, look up Revolution OS, and I'll pull it up real quick. Revolution OS. This is an old documentary and it's not. It's cheesy, all right? I'm not going to lie. It was circa 2001, and it was about the Linux revolution. And we were, I say we, and I wasn't in a documentary or anything, but I'm just like, I was an open source advocate. Yes, 19 years ago, I was excited to watch this when I was a big open source advocate because my open source adventure started in 1996 when I loaded Red Hat off of a series of floppy disks. So you start with us versus them, but what's happened over 20 years. Back then, Microsoft was king. We still had, of course, Novell NetWare, et cetera, but we've watched the shift and change over time. And now, 20 years later, people like myself and people that were probably big fans of this show who went from young people at 19 years old now to people in their 40s, we now are the people in charge of things. And we took that open source love we had and we now brought it with us. So now we're seeing in terms of state of open source, us being the decision makers, well, open source has become very important and very critical to all aspects of it. And I'll leave a link to this right here. I think I can probably drop this in the chat real quick so others can look at it too. But you get this whole... you can look at the way the ecosystem, there's a couple things that weren't in here that I wanted to comment on. So they have the full report. 86% of IT leaders say the most innovative companies are using enterprise open source. So that's a cool blanket statement. I get it. And there's a little bit more detail in there, but the nuance that I think they missed is one of the reasons so many companies are using open source. They cite the fact that they think it's more secure. They like the auditable code, but there's a couple things that aren't really in there, but I think are important. One, do you own your infrastructure? That question has been one of the problems that companies that some of the larger ones too, have really consulted with is they really like, and I know UniFi is an open source, but I'll use them as an example because what makes some of these companies upset is when they get the bill for their Meraki license. And we've been dealing with this. We have another company. They're just super unhappy with the last IT people. And they're like, the Meraki bill was not clearly labeled when they installed the Wi-Fi 3 years ago that there would be a bill in 3 years that was to them fairly substantial. They said we were sold it and we didn't think about any recurring fees because they bundled in with part of the total install a 3-year license. Well, now they're hitting them for another renewal and they're going, we have to pay to keep this on all the time. And they said it's worked great, but this is kind of expensive. But it also says this is interesting because now we have a strong realization that the licenses attached to here are driving our costs that we didn't even know. And granted, you can blame them and say, well, they should have looked into Meraki further, but you can also, they're claiming the other IT company wasn't clear that there would be another license fee in so many years. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the history of them. I mean, I'm hearing it from the client side, and we're providing them a UniFi solution that doesn't have recurring license fees, because that was the first question, and what made them find us was they were looking for a solution of Wi-Fi without recurring license fees. And I go, hey, you seem to have a lot of videos on this, and we'd like you to come and install it and build our network at our organization here. Now, the other thing we're running into is the VMware, and there was a great Serve the Home article about this. Serve the Home, and it was the, there we go. License Geddon rages as VMware overhauls per socket licensing. Now, this is one of those things where VMware made a big jump in their licensing fees. And this, all of a sudden, especially because of when they announced it, some people may have already had their projected budgets done. Well, now your projected budget just got updated, and by no fault of anyone in IT. So sometimes, let's say they hand down the IT budget at a large enterprise organization. They're going, hey, this is your budget. And I go, cool, we can work with that. Then they're like, well, our VMware just went up this much. Well, you still have the same budget. Figure out who's getting fired. You know, what's going to not happen because you now have to pay more license fees because they updated it? These are the questions these companies have. Now, when you flip it around, you say, let's get something that's open source, and some people think, oh, you just want things for free. No, they're willing to buy support packages, and they can buy the support packages, and if the support is going to go up, that's understandable, but they can also then look at it and go, well, maybe we want to train someone internally, and maybe we'll send them through a certification because there are certifications, or we don't really need to buy the support and we can shop around because maybe more than one person supports this product. So there's different options that come in that versus licenses, and if you don't pay the license, it just goes out. Which brings me a little bit to this morning to a very agitated client we had because their AutoCAD system became unlicensed. And it was the AutoCAD people's fault. They claimed to have sent the license file over. They did not. And when they did indeed, my client did pay the bill for their AutoCAD licenses. It took a while to get the license file updated because they said they updated it. I said it wasn't. It was he said, they said, we showed them a screenshot and said, look, it says license expired today. And they go, oh, well, I guess they got to log in and get a new license file. And then they got us the new license file. I don't know why it was a back and forth, but the client had paid for it a while ago. So it can be aggravating dealing with this. And it's one of those things like, wow, your guys' goof up now cost us a bunch of time, lost time, hours of lost time generating license files, et cetera, et cetera. And these are all things going into the open source. And the final piece I'll mention with this whole report is the fact that open source gives you the ability to audit the code and vet it yourself. You can pay for your own third-party audits if you're a big enough company to afford that, and you can audit and vet the code that builds the software that your company runs. You can assure that someone hasn't either A, made an egregious coding mistake or baked in a backdoor to the software. You can audit the code. That means you have a better confidence level. And when the code is public like this, we generally see, I think, overall better coding practices of mature products because, one, if you were to stick an SSH key and bake it into the code, someone would notice it over on GitHub and go, wherever it's hosted, let's assume GitHub, but someone would see it and go, why did they bake their password in? Why did they bake this key in? It would be caught by the general community and, of course, would be hammered on in a code audit. So it's interesting to see the status of it. But what I wish I could say is just in more definitive terms is how many big companies that TrueNAS and other companies that use open source pfSense are in. We're talking like large established companies you've heard of that don't want their infrastructure known publicly, but there's a lot of them using pfSense. Now, I did do a video where I used, I think it was ZipRecruiter, and I can probably look on there again looking for jobs on ZipRecruiter, that MasterCard was hiring for pfSense engineers. So you can claim they're not using it, or you can also say they must be using it. You know what I mean? So I wonder if we can do a quick search for jobs and look for pfSense. Search for jobs. Found 2 open positions. Oh man, I'm verifying my email on here. Aw, crap. You got to sign up now for ZipRecorder. Not looking, but open. I guess. Oh, man. So. Nah, there's nothing I can show on here. Anyways, they changed ZipRecruiter. I haven't looked at it in a while. You got to sign up for this crap now. Anyways, if you do some of the job search sites, you'll find large companies that will not tell you what is in there, but you will find if you do searchings for people looking for pfSense engineers, and you're like, wait a minute. I remember one time, and I have a video on this, when I said, is pfSense or FreeNAS used at large companies? Yes, you could find them hiring actively for people, looking for people who know pfSense. So you can find it from the back end, but no one can publicly say that they've done work for it that works at these companies. So hopefully that's clears things up at least a little bit. Let me catch up on some of these. My first shorthead bot came from a 500-page manual. Yeah. Yep. It's shocking how much Microsoft has changed. Yes. Sitting on site, A1 because it's cheaper to put in. So, okay. 10 gig UDM Pro switch. Sorry to circle back. I just got home. Deal with the not supporting gig on all ports. Someone has asked me that more than once. That I did 2 reviews. I did a review and I did an updated review of the UniFi 10 gig switch. It has 10 gig ports. Someone said it doesn't. I said, okay, show me, because it does 10 gig. And then someone claims that certain models don't. And I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. So some guy on YouTube or someone who's angry in a forum claims it doesn't do 10 gig. I have the testing to show you that it does 10 gig. So I'm unable to validate that person's claims. Let's see. VMware. Oh, VMware's pay good. Yeah. What else we got in here? Yeah, it's more of a naming change on the FreeNAS, TrueNAS thing, like I said in the beginning. I would like to be able to I'd love to be a PFS engineer. I do have a lot of experience using it, but I don't have the experience with the features such as VRP and WAN failover. Not hard to set those up in a lab and do some testing with them. I've got videos documenting that. What is the oldest tech you actively use? Like here? Like that works for me? I don't understand. You're asking not a person, but what is the oldest technology I use? I don't know. I really, that's, UDM Pro backplane. I don't know on the Pro. I remember what I tested and got on them. If I'm not mistaken, I did get 10 gigs out of that on the test, which also means the backplane can't be 8 gig if I got 10 gigs out of it. So that doesn't make any sense. Now, I see you're asking about the UDM Pro. It is aggregating the ports on the switch ports, but the other ports are 10 gig on there, so yeah. But there's only 8 ports, so aggregated is only 8. You're correct. You can't exceed, you got 8 1 gig ports, so you would aggregate together 8 gigs. That's physics. So, my mind, yeah, probably in my head. That's the oldest stuff. I didn't really keep old tech around. I'm not nostalgic for things. Well, I take that back. I do like some of the emulators. I like to play some of the old retro video games. So, but those are emulated. I do own the originals, but I don't use the originals. Like, I don't have my Atari out and plugged in anywhere. So that's probably, I guess, do you consider that old tech? I don't really have a nostalgic tech. Like, I don't hoard things. Matter of fact, I throw everything away. I don't like stuff. They give you 8 gig ports switched. So if you have 8 devices plugged in all, they won't get a gig, but they advertise it a gig switch for each 8 ports. I am okay. I guess, but if you said it's an 8 gig backplane, then it would do 1 gig between it. I did not try to confirm that the backplane has a non-blocking rate, so I don't know. I'm not going to dwell on it. I did the review of the device. It's kind of a neat home user device. It's not something I feel is really as business oriented. I said that in the video. I'm not changing my mind about that. There's nothing, it's missing enterprise features like dual WAN IPs and better VPN support, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think home users who use it will ever have a problem with the way the backplane's set up. Yeah, I don't. People get hung up on weird details and they obsess with them. And if you're trying to get something, that has better non-blocking throughput and things like that, a built-in switch to the Dream Machine may not be the best solution. But I don't know. I think it's one of those things people get more hung up on than it really matters. Not all open source companies have paid support. That's kind of a mix. Some do, some don't. Some open source projects are really popular but don't have even any type of paid option. So it's kind of a mix on that. So it's not exactly consistent. Yeah, there's a lack of redundancy in the UDM Pro. You can only put 1 drive in there. So like I said, it's great if you have a few things at home and you're not worried about redundancy, but refer back to the video I just did yesterday regarding the Synology with all the cameras. You have something, again, that has redundancy. You've got multiple hard drives in there. You have, however you want to configure them, whether it's more for redundancy or more for storage, but there's options. There's no option with the UDM Pro. I point to it because it's literally just out of view over here behind me. It's got a single drive, so that's really it. Do you use NTP services? All the time. We have our DHCP server set up to hand out NTP services. That way it all the servers, and such as the servers including the why am I trying? Oh, XCP-ng servers. That way they are handed out the same thing. We want the cameras. If you're handing those out to DHCP, you want to make sure they have time syncing on there. And it is an option within the DHCP servers itself to grab that information and put it in there so it passes along those servers. So yeah, I do recommend doing it. I don't bother. I mean, I could. I believe you can set up on pfSense NTP services. I don't know. I'm not going to there. So anyways, what are the other things that I wanted to talk about was I'll probably be doing, do I use NetBoot servers? Not in forever. I used to use, I had it forever ago, videos on imaging servers and using Pixie Boot to do that. It's just not necessary with Windows 10 anymore. So it's kind of become it was neat when we had it. It was a cool feature. We just don't really have a need for it like we used to. It's just not that much. And we also, and I mentioned this last week, I mean, we made it very official. We've been revamping our website and all of our online presence that we can find in Facebook pages, etc., to remove all references. We're just not doing any more retail work anymore. So we don't do retail computers. So imaging computers has become less and less relevant. We're only imaging Windows 10 for customers. And that's so easy to do with just, as a matter of fact, it's really fast with a handful of USB drives. It's almost faster just to pop them all in. And if we need something more than that, we'll just go ahead and set up, if we had to, we could stand up a Windows imaging server. The Windows deployment services, you can stand those up and then image systems faster. But Windows 10 loads so fast, and obviously that is what I do for a lot of our clients. What version of XCP-ng is in my lab? I can't tell if that's a typo or you actually had said so. Let's go ahead and look. So we are running, let me confirm, you're looking for XCP-ng, right? Man, my nose won't stop running. Romeo Jet, you are really fascinated by the backplane of the UniFi. I don't know. I'm not. You can rewatch my video, and if there's discrepancies you found, contact UniFi. I don't know. I'm not their marketing department, so I really don't have. I don't have a lot to comment on that. It is what it is. If that's what you're hanging up on, then I'll let them know your thoughts on that. Can you add network drivers to XCP-ng? I mean, you probably could. This is my lab right here. No support, 5562, XOWeb 5562. So I do have a fully licensed version of XCP-ng, and Zen Orchestra and everything else. But when I do my demo videos, and I mentioned this before when I was doing them, I like to do them using the open source version because I want to encourage people to do things like home labs and show that all these things I talk about and I'm able to do can be done with all the open source version for free. So everything I build, I always build it and do the demos with this open source one because it almost feels like cheating. Well, sure, you can compile it and you can get the closed source version. Let me switch so I'm going to pull up the wrong screen. Make sure there's nothing in here. And in case I got to type passwords or something. So, all right, here we go. Here is the fully licensed version of it. So as you can see, I have the Premium Pro Support Included Edition, and there's an update to it, so cool. So let's go ahead and upgrade it. And this is one of the conveniences you get of the licenses. But on the free version right here, which this runs my production systems, this runs my lab, you can see that I don't get any support over here. So I have to manually compile things myself. But feature-wise, yeah, they're extremely similar between all of them. TrueNAS ICE, because that one's not connected right now. It's curious. It hasn't failed yet because it's not checking it because there's no drives on it. They're all been removed. So because there's no VDIs, it still shows green, but the FreeNAS is turned off right now. So it's kind of cool though. This is one feature you do get. You can obviously upgrade it in place without going to the compile. This is a feature you get when you use the paid version of it. But yeah, that's what my lab is. Zen server. Currently the lab runs 8.1. My production systems are still on 8.0. Is that going to hurt your nose? I have no idea. Running late search. I mean, Zen. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I buy good toilet paper. If there's something in life that I like is you buy good toilet paper. It's my advice for life. Just makes your life better. Yeah. I'm. In case you didn't know, as my day winds down, my nose starts running a little more, and I'm just going to go crash and go to sleep or something. I'm going to go to reply to emails before I do that, I think. I was just hoping you would use some performance to see what you thought. Oh. I don't know. I'm not going to dive that deep into that particular product. 2-ply soft toilet paper. Yeah, definitely use the good stuff. That's the important part. So, was there other XCP-ng questions we had? I've been doing more videos on that particular topic. You guys can watch it do the upgrades here. So let me refresh the page. Yep, still got some more updates to do, so I'll let that do its updating. But there are 9 VMs on here, 4 users set up. I don't know why I have so many users set up. I think it's because I have my guys set up in here. They were doing some testing. But here's all the VMs running on it. So if we want to boot up different things, this is where I've got a pfSense lab set up. So if I wanted to boot this up, if I wanted to... I'm working on some videos for this. I goofed it up, and I need to... Well, I might just reload it, but this is the GRE encrypted. You can create GRE encrypted tunnels on there, and I've been working on a video for it, but I goofed up the way it does the system, so it's not working right. So that's why that video is not done. I had to put it down because I know I did something wrong, and I haven't figured out what I did wrong. So, but when you compile it, you just got to turn on, you got to compile with all plugins and turn on the SDN controller to make this work. And away you go. So that'll fix, that's supposed to make it work. And then the SDN controller is supposed to put the certs in here, and it does, but the certs have some error message because I did something wrong when I was compiling. It works on the paid version, but it's not working on the free version. And until I get it working on the free version, I don't do a video on it. But if you use the paid version, that is completely a supported feature now that they've added is GRE encrypted tools, and VXLANs are supported on there as well. And if you're not familiar with VXLANs, they frequently use them inside like a data center to create encapsulated VLANs across different systems. So that's a feature. Now, locally, the GRE works fine. And what the GRE is replacing the local host. You can do GRE backend, so you can build a front-end firewall like pfSense and put all the servers behind it and attach them to the GRE tunnels you create. And that's actually, well, if you look at how our pfSense is set up, and why not fire that up while we're sitting here? So the pfSense is connected to the GRE encrypted here. So if we fire this up and let this boot, and then once this is booted, we can boot up other servers and put them behind the pfSense. And they should get IP addresses from behind it. So we'll let that boot right now, and I'll answer some messages again. Do I keep lab and production in physically different cabinets? Mostly. And hey, Tony, how's it going? Most of the lab stuff is living right here. So most of the time it is. The few exceptions are, okay, I do have another pfSense in my production stack. So it's things like that. It's convenient because I can do some of the lab testing in my production environment because it's faster than some of the stuff I have over here, with the exception of the TrueNAS. That thing is really fast. So I do have a little bit of a mix of both. The nice thing, because it all runs XCP-ng, I can just throw a VM and pass it back and forth and migrate it between the two. Generally, I run all my lab stuff in here, so it never crosses over by accident or interferes with my production. But sometimes I have mostly a bunch of little Debian installs that I use on my on my production system. I spin them up just to test a theory. I also will do random restores. I'll go through and test restore things once in a while to make sure that they work and build them up in an isolated environment. And I usually do that. It's still kind of labbing out things when I want to test something, but I do that on my production systems. Hey, awesome. Glad I helped you out with all that FreeNAS stuff. Do you run Xen Orchestra as a VM on XCP-ng? Yes, I do. In every instance, I do. Now, the interesting thing about the way Xen Orchestra works is it's a one-to-many. You can run a single instance of Xen Orchestra and manage many, many Xen servers. I don't even know what the upper limit is, but it's big. Like, you can run at least, I think someone I seen was running about 20 different pools and 100 different servers. I've seen some people posting some large-scale installs. So you can have a single version of Xen Orchestra managing all of those. Now, you don't have to have like it running on each one of the servers. You could even, if you wanted to, and I thought about doing this, is having Xen Orchestra run. I was playing around with the VMs on FreeNAS. I was like, if I stuck Xen Orchestra as a virtual machine on FreeNAS, it could manage all of my other Xen servers, including restarting them, and never have to worry about restarting Xen Orchestra. Not a huge deal, so, but it's kind of however you want to run it. And one of my friends loaded it on his local. He built a Xen Orchestra from source on his local Linux machine that he's running, so he has it running inside of Linux. And by running it inside of Linux on there, he has his machine directly reached out and controlling all of his Xen servers, and he's got it on a laptop. I thought it was a novel way to do it, but probably not the recommended way to do it, because you kind of want it up and running all the time. But it was a lab, so hey, whatever. We do have the ability to remote into Mac, but you have to follow certain instructions that are a pain in the butt sometimes. You have to enable like some third-party thing with the latest Mac updates. It's kind of we use Screen Connect. It does work with Mac, but there's a few steps you have to do to turn on whatever thing Mac does in there. We don't really like doing Mac support at all. We avoid it. It's not our niche. You're getting ready to swap your home lab over to XCP-ng? Awesome. Is there anything you know that will be a headache as far as importing, exporting OVAs? No, not really. Proxmox, Learn Linux TV has a lot of Proxmox videos. Can you restrict users from using P2P and track users out of pfSense? Not as good. I've recommended Untangle before for this reason. It's one of those... if you have a real need for that, they have more robust filtering at the firewall level. But we don't usually do it at the firewall level. That's why it's not really an issue for us. We focus on the endpoints because the firewall is always trying to interpret all the data and opposed to the endpoints, which have better access to it. How do you inter-VM communicate? I tried to keep both interfaces and managed to keep myself out of the VM somehow. Yeah, I don't know what you did. Do you monitor XCP with Zabbix? I haven't, but I guess I could. I've seen people talking about that in the forums. It's an option. You can. There are some Zabbix templates for XCP-ng. It's something I might look at in the future. It's nothing I'm doing right now. I never have to monitor because nothing goes wrong with it. So it just doesn't break. Is it bad practice to use one NIC for external and one for internal? No, it's good practice to have each of the networks segmented, because even if you divide the networks up into VLANs, you got to remember you're sharing the physical medium. So if you care about performance, and that's if performance is not something you always care about it, but if you really need high performance and you have a 1 gig card, and all the VMs use the same 1 gig card, well, you will have a bottleneck if you need more bandwidth because they're physically sharing the same card. That may cause problems for you. So you ideally want to split it up or plug in a 10 gig card. So it's not, it may be better practice to have more of them. It kind of depends on your design scenario. So definitely many of them are supported. we've had 0 people ask us for MDM with iPads. There's a bunch of Mac management programs out there. We've had 0 customers ask about it. So maybe that's odd, but we actually have no customers managing tablets or iPads, so it's just not a question that comes up. Min requirements for Zen Orchestra? I don't know. I'm not sure. I would probably say a computer built within the last 5 years that supports virtualization. So, pfSense is booted up. Let's see if we can log into that. This one's up to date. Let me look at this. Did we update our server while we were doing this? Cool. That one's up to date. So this is 192.168.3.113. .168.3.113. All right, we are running the latest release. It's up and running. LAN 2 is a 10.1. And which one is LAN 2 connected to? VIF 2 is on the encrypted one. So let's go over here. We'll go over to networking, and we'll change it to the GRE encrypted, and it should work. Where's it at? GRE encrypted. There we go. So this now should get a 10 dot address. So it's booting up. See what it gets. Yay, has a 10 dot address, if you can see that down here, 10.1.11. So it is actually working on the internet, and it's behind the pfSense. So here it is. If we go over here to services, DHCP server, and there we go. There it is, leased behind the server. So that's how you can build, and now all the VMs I attach to that GRE network are all behind there, and away they go. I've not seen any free open source MDMs because it takes a whole lot to manage those devices. See, with G Suite, it's built in, so you can just tie all the stuff to G Suite. I don't know how it works as much in Microsoft, but we just have so few people doing it, with the exception of schools. But the schools get the G Suite Google license for it. So there's a G Suite Google Classroom license that they tie to the Google Chromebooks that control all that. So we do have clients using that, but that's a different system than end users doing it. So schools buy they can get the Google Classroom and everything else, but it's a different topic altogether when it's businesses doing it. We all know step 1 of pfSense is setting dark theme. That's true. That is true. Usually dedicated DHCP server. Why is that? Is it right that commercial networks usually have a dedicated DHCP server? Why is that? Is there an open source DHCP server I could try? I would say it all depends on the network. We use pfSense as a DHCP server here, but other businesses, matter of fact, a lot of them use Windows as a DHCP server because they're using a Windows directory server. So Windows provides DHCP. So, but DHCP, you can load it on a Linux box. It's open source. So it is there. Have you heard of SnapRaid working on XCP-ng? Nope, never used it. So I just don't know. I don't build RAIDs with dissimilar hard drives. I like ZFS. So, nope, there are no good open source AD servers. There are people with opinions that they are good ones. Good luck. I don't support them. I'm not going to do videos on them. They're not something we can support for our clients, and for how cheap a Windows, for a small client, a Windows Essential server is so cheap, they will literally pay more in support fees for us to support something so we could save them from the big bad Microsoft. I'm a big open source advocate, but I don't bother with trying to hack together open source AD solutions. because many times that we have AD solutions, they have enterprise tie-ins, and if I run into compatibility problems, we won't get support from the company that sold us the product, because many companies use the Active Directory to handle the authentication of the users, so it has to be compatible, and they're used to logging onto a Windows box to set up any compatibility. Not to mention, it usually has to, the software usually has to run on a Windows server to get it running. So if you have to buy a Windows server anyways, I may as well have it handling AD rather than some third-party box that I got to set up on their network. So that's, yeah. It's a matter of support. If you want to play with it at home, awesome. But it's for the, when you get into the business market, I mean, I used to play with these things years ago to try to avoid all the lock-in with Microsoft, but it became impractical because as more things have become dependent on Active Directory, it's hard to find third-party support for things. Now, other things I want to talk about in pfSense, I do have some videos I'm working on for this systems. The Acme plugin. Where's it at? Sorry, cold's got me a little bit. I thought I had it installed on this. But I will be doing a video on this. This is why I did that Let's Encrypt video, because the automated certificate management environment for automated use of Let's Encrypt certificates is built in. So I have set up a bunch of certificates on a box. I'm just getting ready to do the video on it. I have a few more fine-tuning notes to go through. Part of the what I make sure is I take and play out different scenarios we've set up for clients to talk about how to implement them. And I'm building them all in a lab with where I do, well, I'll be setting it up in my home lab. Not really home, because I guess it's a home lab. I had to stand up some servers. I don't even have servers at home. So I have one. So I set up everything on that so I could show how it works. That way I could have all, because by the way, you have to expose your public IP address to show how all this works. So I'll be logging in, and my favorite part of this entire topic that I'm going to do with the HA proxy combined with Let's Encrypt certs is that I did all of it on an SG-1100, and it works great. It's actually reasonably fast, and the SG-1100 can handle it. And that's just an impressive thing to me, that you can buy a box for just under $200 that will run HA proxy and automatically renew certificates and do reverse proxying of your servers and handle all the encryption and offloading of SSL certs. And it's like a $200 box. I mean, that's impressive. So it's going to be a fun video. I'm gonna definitely be excited to get that out here. Hopefully this weekend I'll have time to do it. Kind of depends on how things go. How are you getting off-site? SyncThing. SyncThing's a great tool to drag things off-site. I'm going to be doing an updated video on SyncThing as well. They've done a lot of changes for that. Did you try installing XenOrchestra on the XCP host itself? That's a horrible idea, and you will probably break things if you did that. It can be done. There's even someone that took the time, and I think, write something up like that. If you want a horribly broken system, then go for it. I highly recommend you not do that. If you start messing with what they refer to as DOM0 and XCP-ng, you run the potential of breaking it. If you break DOM0, kind of like its name, and maybe will imply dominoes, I don't know, it'll all come crashing down. DOM0 handles is the base of the hypervisor. Then you run everything inside of that. So if you mess with things on the hypervisor side, especially that the developers didn't expect, you may crash DOM0 and bring down your whole stack in a way that may not be able to bring back up. I mean, you can restore from backups, but you can see how you can break a lot of things by doing the unexpected. There's a reason DOM0 is very limited and locked down. It wasn't made to have all the resources and everything loaded up into it. So, yeah, don't do that. But yes, the Acme ones. Now, not Let's Encrypt. What are we thinking about now? 2.4. I think we can log into this. Oh, I got to pull the password for it, so I'll make sure. Hey, good. Got the password. Awesome. So, I'm going to be talking about, over here. This is one of my, and I have a few of these now. This is the server running. I got to turn on one of these. I got one of them turned off right now. turn that one back on. That one's over here. I can log into each one of these. Go to plugins. Actually, it's not. It's a jail, not a plugin. Start. All right. Now, they have done a cool job here of updating this. One of the things they have is, well, we'll pull up the graphics one too. We can go look at the versions. So this is synchronizing between each one of these, purple sync being the offsite one that it synchronizes to. And I can look here, and here's like one of the templates, and we can look through the versions and restore these different templated versions of it. This is a really cool feature that they've added, and I need to do some updated videos. They've really enhanced the whole system quite a bit of how this works. And right now you see, because I just fired up one more sync thing, I seen it was off, I can see it's on now. It's synchronizing all this. I want to do some updated videos because they've just done such a good job of updating this tool to make it really solid in terms of performance and how much data you can synchronize very, very fast with this and move it around. And of course, I'm running it inside, not a plugin. You can load this as a plugin. It is an available plugin in their list here, right here. But I actually, I'm going to do the video on how to build it manually so you have more flexibility when you build the jails in this. So when you build the jails with Sync Thing and you have these set up, you can tell it to auto update. You don't have to have, you get a little bit finer control over it, I should say, versus the plugin. You can also get newer versions because you can update it yourself and say, hey, go ahead and download the latest version of Sync Thing and run this inside of here versus being dependent on when the plugin gets updated. And I wanted to do it kind of as an experiment, but also as a way to, you know, discuss how that's done. So that'll be something I'll do a video on as well with the updated versions of Sync Thing and everything else. So that's definitely on my to-do list for doing all that. So subscribe today. You and that Chris guy from Crosstalk are the best. Thank you. I have a lot of good conversations with Chris. He's a great guy. It's funny because just before I came in here, I was talking about a quote for a phone system, and Chris does, we just contract to Chris for the back-end support for free PBX. Especially some of these larger, we are in negotiations a little bit with, we've referred over to Chris a large 500 plus user network. I mean, his company is able to handle that. They're really good at free PBX and all those detailed configs. That's not my niche. I mean, we have a free PBX here, but my niche is not repairing it. And that, we think Chris and Crosstalk is great for that. Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried to add network drivers to XCP-ng, so I have no idea what will break when you do that. How much data storage can FreeNAS handle thinking about 3 petabyte max storage solution? The largest I've seen, I think, is 10 or 11 petabytes. I don't know that there's an upper limit. You kind of run out of, I mean, it takes some expanders to do that, but yes, it does take, you can definitely build a 3 petabyte server. You could, the biggest I've seen, you can even order right from the folks at IX Systems. They sell a 10 petabyte system. So, but I mean, they probably sell a bigger one. I just know that they've had listed a 10 petabyte system. So I don't know what the upper limit is. It probably is, there probably is some limitation that I don't know, but it's at least not 10 petabytes. So, at some point though, you usually don't build, once you go over that, or even that, you start looking at like Gluster and other distributed type file systems because you start putting together all the different storage nodes to build larger storage. But hey, I mean, obviously when you look at a solution like, well, YouTube, the platform you're watching right now, 10 petabytes is like nothing to them. They got to have an absolute insane amount of storage to be able to distribute their system. So that's a whole different thing. So yeah, once you get to something that big, you may be looking at maybe not a FreeNAS system. I mean, not for your 3 petabyte system, but for some of the other ones, you start looking at things like Gluster or that. So yeah, Epic CPU plus HBA adapters. Well, that's probably why they want to really rapidly support Epic with all the different CPU lanes. They realize they're going to run into Intel limitations when people want bigger servers. So undoubtedly, they want the Epic so they can epically build bigger servers. There we go. I at least got to do a play on words on that because the Epic stuff's awesome. I do think, you know, over the next couple of years as storage demands grow, we will see that. And coming back to the FreeNAS thing, yeah. So that's absolutely a big big change. Pop! OS customizations. There's really not any that are that exciting. I've talked about it, but I can't think of any at the time. The changes I make are really to the command line, but not to the system itself. There's not much. It's pretty vanilla because I like it. It looks fine to me, so I don't tweak it because it's not broke. So, anyways, back to SIP provider. We are in the process of migrating from a company that we're okay with, but we're going to start using VoIP MS. We're setting up. We're going to have them as an affiliate link as well. But before I'm very much one of those people that don't want to just send an affiliate link for something I don't use. So we're going to migrate our phone number to VoIP MS. I already got the account set up. I've just been busy and haven't done the migration. And we will probably start using it. We've already got a few clients on VoIP MS and we're happy with them. But before I recommend them as a reseller per se, I will probably move our stuff over to them sooner than later. It's just a matter of timing. But VoIP.ms has been really good so far. I don't think at all about a minimize or maximize button. They just don't matter to me. So it's irrelevant to me. You like rsync? Rsync's okay. I like syncing better for most things because it's real-time syncing versus scheduled syncing with rsync. But I mean, it all depends on what I'm building. Yeah, Gnome tweak tool. That's the one. I was trying to think of that. That works good for doing that if you want to add those buttons back because you're missing some. I don't miss those buttons. There's nothing about it that I think... I don't look at this and go, hey, man, I really need more buttons. That just doesn't even enter into my mind. What is this? So let me show you what's in my pictures. Nothing good. Documents. Try to make sure I don't pull up anything, you know, too crazy here. Well, you know what I can do? Pull this, that. Now I've got videos kind of on this topic here. And I'm just opening up a couple things. And I'll switch to it now. I just to make sure I have everything open. So for me, I don't understand why I need a minimize button. I have a maximize. I have that if I needed it windowed. I like things maximized most of the time. I can tab between things like this. I can jump back over here to this. I can hit this and choose between it or open up the next thing like a calculator. Or even another, I think you can open up more than one. There we go. I can have two calculators. And I just don't, I know, I guess people are bothered by it. I mean, I use the close button, so I do like the X. I do use that function, like, you know, I want to close something. But I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on whether or not I need more buttons to do things. And a lot of times I just do this. I just tab between stuff. That's faster. So right here, I can edit this video. I can jump back over here to Google Chrome, jump back over to the calculator. Or if I need another desktop, I slide down, and now I got another desktop I can work on. So I can start opening things over here. Or move one of these things over to the other desktop, like this. There. So this desktop has that one, and that one. And of course, now we have a new desktop. So, I don't know. I guess some people make a bigger deal about this than... whatever. Oh, search. Search. There we go. Nothing even recent open on here, but I'll close it because I don't need it open. Kill that desktop, bring it back over here, come back and chat with you folks. So, that's what it looks like when you navigate Windows. So I've not understood the minimize button because I just never need to minimize anything because I just hit the super key and bring up a new desktop. I never think about minimizing anything. And there is the option, I'm sliding it. I'm not always hitting keys. I did one where and maybe I'll do an updated one where I showed the key combinations I was hitting so you could see how I was moving and manipulating things on there so you can see what the button presses were to make it all happen. You know, that it is a learning environment. If you're coming from Windows, yes, it's different. But the way I use it, it's not really been a big deal. Yes, Super Arrow Snap works too. That's true. Yeah, multi-desktop. Me, it's a combination of things. It's multi-desktop plus multi-monitor. This is obviously a single display, mirrored to go out. I have it in a mirrored setting so you guys can see exactly what I'm seeing. But in my desktop, the middle screen is the only one I record, and I have two screens on the side. The screen on my left is for communication. The screen on my right, your left, is for communication. The other screen is usually when I'm watching something going over or going through, and my work is always in the middle. Except for when I'm doing videos, my notes go on this side. If you watch occasionally, if I'm reading from notes, when I want to get something technically correct, you'll watch my eyes cut over a little bit. Oh, smash the like button. There's 255 of you here, so smash away, smash away. I think I have a video. Maybe I'll do an updated one because I think the video was like a year ago I did it. And Pop! OS looks a little bit different a year later. They're always updating and polishing it. So, yeah. Sometimes the illusion of fast in Linux is because they do things like eliminate the animations. There's ways you can use the Gnome tweak tool to eliminate the animations. And when you do stuff like that, it suddenly feels a whole lot faster. So not all versions are that much faster, but by changing the animation speed to 0, and I used to do that sometimes playing around, you get this appearance because there's no animation speed. Everything just instantly kind of happens. So it's not necessarily that it is faster, but clear Linux OS is definitely fast, but it's sometimes because of that. So anyways, I am winding this down. Is there anything else for the good of the class? Is there other things we wanted to talk about? I kind of briefly went over the fact that you can have a Debian server in your lab behind your pfSense server. Obviously, people are going to be excited about the Acme HA proxy because a lot of people want to know how to set that up, and it's not too difficult to set up in pfSense. They did a really nice job with HA proxy. Man, HA proxy is a lot of features. I'm only going to scratch the surface on it because you could probably do just video after video on all the things you can dive into with HA proxy. It kind of comes up with the use case and you can build scenarios around it because once you start doing SSL offloading with HA proxy in front of it, you can do a lot of filtering features and even load balancing of your servers behind it to really make a powerful setup. So that's going to be a fun video. I'm excited about that. How much you hated my... You just seem more fascinated than anyone else on the back plane of a UDM Pro. I don't have any better communication with UniFi, so if you don't like it, contact them. I carry no more power than you with them. Just because UniFi occasionally sends me stuff, they don't necessarily reply to my questions. And I gotta go blow my nose some more, so I'm gonna go home and do that. Ugh. I'm gonna reply to some emails and then blow nose. HA proxy is nice not to deal with certs and VMs. Works over 2 years. Yeah, it's a nice setup. FreeNAS acting as a CA server. No, FreeNAS added support for... I think it's in... Where's it at? It's in our system. I haven't done this at all. I don't know that I would. But they now support Route 53, which I thought they was interesting. I don't have a lot of them on there. So select authenticator, select authentication attributes, and now you're able to add a DNS authenticator so you can set up the Acme certs inside of here. It's a feature that I just am not personally interested in. Apparently, there was enough requests that they put it in, obviously, but I don't plan on doing any videos in it. I have nothing set up in Route 53, so I don't. Maybe they'll write more features. The nice thing is when you look at the system inside of pfSense, on the other hand, is how many different providers they have. When you dig into that, I think I can show this. Let me find out. Go over here. 1.1 colon. There we go. We'll give you a sneak preview to this. how it works. Logging in. Try again. Gotta wait till the VPN's up apparently before it works. Details. Services, Acme. There we go. So, when you're looking at the Acme protocol here, there is, like, this is one thing about the pfSense people. They really like to go above and beyond for a lot of this stuff. Look at all the different support they have for different DNS providers. So you have your Red local folder, standalone HTTP, standalone TLS-WAN, DNS manual. If you know how to do your own stuff, there's ways to do that. I happen to use DigitalOcean. So the only thing you got to do with DigitalOcean is drop in the API key and it just automatically renews certs with DNS. You don't have to even expose any ports or anything. It'll automatically validate your domain via DNS and be done. It's just set up. It's great. It's a great system. It's impressive. If you're running a bunch of stuff in Azure, no problem. You can just set up your Azure, your tenant ID, app ID, Azure Secret, and away you go, and it'll do the challenge for there. I think they probably have, Amazon Route 53. They have that support for that in there. They have built so much support for all these different providers. If you can't find a provider in this giant list that makes you happy, I don't think anything will make you happy. DNS Acme Proxy, endpoint URL, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different ways to do authentication. My video is going to be centered around DigitalOcean because I use DigitalOcean. That's how we host the forums. So I'll be covering it inside of that. But yeah, it's definitely a really great system for that. Tesla video, working on some more of those. It's becoming nice outside. Now that once it gets nice, I'll do more Tesla videos. I want to record them like outside in a Tesla, but it's not nice out right now. So it's getting there. As it gets warmer, I'm happy. So is no IP on the list? I don't know. Was it DNS? I don't see no IP on the list. Does no IP support DNS authentication for Let's Encrypt certs? Linode is on there. But in the ends, it's Namecheap. Here, well, why don't we look together? I got name.com, Namecheap, NetterHost, NameSilo, Neo, NetUCP, Nick.ru, NS1, Nexus, DNS1. So I don't see, I don't know. Load pfSense, look it up. Matter of fact, go to their site. They have all these listed on there. This is public information. You're just looking at it from inside my pfSense at home. I'm VPN'd in, which is a little lockup there at the top. There's the VPN icon. So, but I will do more videos on all these other fun things. DNS GoDaddy, yeah, they got a pretty good list in there. I can't cover every potential one, but they all work under the same premise where you get an API key and drop it in there. I don't wear the Tesla man bun. No, I wear my hair the same all the time because I don't like to think about it. It just is. It's not a function I think about. There you go. All right. Well, everyone hit that like button. I am exhausted and want to go lay down and blow my nose some more, which is not what no one wants to keep hearing me blow my nose. And if we keep this up, I'm going to keep blowing my nose and it's not going to be good. So I'm going to go get some rest, and DuckDNS didn't used to be listed. Is DuckDNS in there? Let's look real quick. Yes. Just before we leave, DuckDNS is in the list. DreamHost, DNS Pod. There's more DNS people than I've ever heard of in here. So yes, you can use DuckDNS as well. But all of them are the same. They're all just asking for an API token. So DuckDNS looks pretty much the same as the DNS Made Easy versus, I'm using DigitalOcean. Where's the DigitalOcean one? DigitalOcean, there you go. And away you go. Pretty straightforward. You just drop the DigitalOcean key and away you go. I'm getting tired now too. Sorry, yawning and sneezing, man. It's not going to go good if I keep this up. So thank you for joining. Thank you for all of you that came. Thank you for all of you that are going to press the like button before you leave. Thank you all the way from Bangladesh. Awesome. So hopefully I gave away a lot of information. I know some people probably want me to talk about, and I will be in a future video. And I bring it up, I think, a little bit in my video I just did, because everyone wants to know and wants to talk about Gluster. I'm not an expert on this, but it highlights the problem that you run into. I mean, everything has use cases. And this is one of the ones I talked about. So they talked about the different speed issues you run into. And I mentioned this. This is why you would do HA on this TrueNAS system and why they're so popular versus why HA on Gluster isn't a bad thing, but it has a different type of use case. So if you just search Gluster experiments and benchmarks, this was the first thing that came up. And it was just to highlight some information. So maybe I'll do some topics on a friend who does a little bit more Gluster work. But once again, the reason they do it is for very specific reasons. So I'm going to see if they if they have time to come on a channel and talk about it. So hopefully that clears that up, and I am out of here. So let me yawn one more time. I keep yawning until you press the like button. Press the like button, do some more yawning, and I'm out of here. All right, thanks.